What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dynasty Lab. Every time we do this, I feel like I want to say a completely different show because while Alexander and I have been working together for 2 years, we've had 3 shows. I think we had launched another show at one point because we have all these grand ideas of how we want to nuance each show a little differently from the last because there's many ways to visualize data. And I know that we go back and forth about things. So we've had the Dynasty Rankings Show, then the Future Proof Show, which, by the way, that will reveal itself at some point as something much greater, like what is it called when a Pokemon
evolves?
It evolves,
Come on, man.
right?
You got to get to a right level, right? We're going to get to a certain level, and then it'll evolve.
What a boomer question. Not know that they evolve. Obviously, back in the day, it's a funny side story here. So before cell phones, before everybody sat on a toilet and looked at a cell phone, when I was younger, since we didn't have those, you had a Game Boy, or in my house, you had a dictionary. The Game Boy was a lot more fun than the dictionary, but we did have all the Pokemon games, and it's actually an embarrassment when my brother watches this. He's going to be like, dude, how do you not remember it's Evolve? I apologize to all of our Pokemasters out there. So anyway, Alexander MacKenzie, let's jump to the good stuff. You can find him on Twitter at Jacked Up on Mountain Dew. Of course, I'm Nate Liss. You can find me on Twitter at An Outraged Jew. This is episode 3 of this show. Is it 3? It's got to be 3.
Yeah,
episode
3,
right? I don't even know what week it is. Episode 3, and the first version of the show is we're going along. In the beginning, it's looking at overreactions, and we started working on trade details. And as we mentioned before, more and more what we want to do is break down trades that have taken place in actual leagues. But what's actually more fun, in a sense, beyond that is looking at some of the trades that you guys have actually made in our trade calculator, which has gotten a lot of traffic over time. If you're in the Discord, the dynastyrankings.com Discord, you'll see that we created a new channel called the Calculator Trade Feedback. Calculator feedback, some version of those 3 words in some order, created by Buzzard, who is the MVP with literally every task or idea that comes up. Most of them come from him. So if you're not in the Discord, link is in the description. For those of you in the Discord, which is really the only place outside of this podcast that we have announced this trade calculator and the rankings. If you guys are finding things that stand out to you, as the post says, errors, oddities, trades that you just can't believe are even in the trade calculator, post them in there and give us your feedback. We'll respond in there. We'll make a note of it. We will literally talk about it on the show if we feel like it is valuable enough. I know that there was a Ladd McConkey trade, which is essentially the crux of the creation of this new Discord channel. That'll come up on this show because I think that raised some questions as well. So we'll continue to dive into trades. We'll continue to feature the calculator because really at the end of the day, we want to make it better and we want more people to get out there and take advantage of what this trade calculator can do. It is honestly very powerful. We've already gotten a lot of really great feedback from people that believe that the value of the trades or the value of the rookie picks in it, they really love those. They feel like it's more balanced on some of the quarterbacks where I think some other sites may have quarterbacks a lot lower. I think people have really appreciated just kind of where the numbers fall. And it's based in a lot of prediction, future prediction, current production. And one big thing, since this is going to be airing on Thursday morning, depending on who you are, where you are when you consume this, our website will be getting its first major scoring update for all of the players, probably late this week, tomorrow, Friday, or possibly this weekend. But either way, we're going to continue to push updates for the player rankings, and you guys can expect those probably once a week. Now, unlike, as I mentioned before, other calculators, other websites, we're not going to move a player 387 spots in 1 week. Just shouldn't happen, won't happen, isn't going to happen here. So, admittedly, Alexander and I have talked. There is a smidge of a concern that the system is going to cut loose and do something crazy, make Tyreek Hill wide receiver 1 again. but we will monitor it. And, with Alexander's guidance over the top of it, I'm sure everything's going to be fine. So really excited to see what it does, because I think one of the big things that people are waiting on is it to be updated so that you can show up every week. And maybe it's more recent than that as we start to kind of get into this thing. And you guys can come in and really test trades and know that, hey, this is real time. This is up to date. It's looking at usage. It's looking at opportunity. It's looking at the wackadoodle trades that are happening out in the real world. And it's saying, hey, let's temper expectation a little bit, because this is what we're seeing going on the field. Alexander, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, to reiterate, we have a major update coming in Friday. Probably Friday, Saturday morning, depending on when it gets pushed. But we've been working really hard to make sure we give you accurate results without, like you said, completely like changing in a player's valuation after 1 week. So we've built in a lot of steps within here. There's been some tweaks that we've had to make just because of some data changes, but I think we are in a good spot now to handle that. And I think that's the goal, is to have this thing going every single week so that you have up-to-date results, and that you can see a proper evaluation of a player based on how they performed, at least through 3 weeks. It was also nice to see where players are evaluated now, even after 3 weeks, with our system still within its like preseason / beginning of the season rankings. So it was nice to see where these guys fall and sort of how other ranking sites have changed within that time period as well. So it's fun to see that our evaluations have sort of held true. And I think that also, like, I don't want to move some of these rookie players if they haven't been producing after 3 weeks. So I'm glad that we're holding true, and I like where our evaluation is. But yeah, new update coming on Friday.
And with the rookies, Alexander and I have been talking about having a college model that will come in and help evaluate players as we score them coming into the year. It was done differently this year. It will be done differently next year. And we come in with a preseason set of ranks, and it adjusts by the week. So really excited to see how that goes. I think it's going to hold to be accurate. And one thing that we've talked about, we're going to find a way to hold ourselves accountable measurably. And we're keeping track of other websites as well, and how accurate they are measurably. And while some other websites don't really care about accuracy because it's really not their fault, whatever the rankings say, it's honestly not up to them. It just happens, whether it's through trades or whether it's through your votes. Rankings just change. So again, like a leaf in the breeze, guys underperforming, sell. Guy has one good week, buy. And then all of a sudden, everything is just a cluster on the website. And how much can you trust? I don't know. Guess we'll find out. All right, Alexander, enough of that brow beating. Let's get off our high horses. I thought you went a little too far in your bit. All right, so let's be serious here. All right, so I think we're going to jump into some of the trades. We've got 5 players on this episode that we wanted to dive into and feature them through our own trade calculator, look at a couple trades that we saw happen in real time, and obviously talk about some of these players in depth. So let's dive into it. Oh, I think that was the wrong button. I was supposed to load. You know what? All right. That's my bad. Okay. Let's start over. Here we go. Did the be right back hit the way I hoped it would?
Oh yeah. That was pretty amazing.
Let's just get one more. Just butt fumble. Here we go. All right, so let's get to the right spot now. There are just way too many buttons over here. I mean, I'm not saying I'm an astronaut, but this basically feels like being an astronaut. It's pretty close. I think I'm somewhere between astronaut and not sure. Okay, here we go. So let's start with Michael Penix, because Michael Penix has been a very interesting name. I know coming into the season, not really a super high ranking for Penix. At no point since being drafted has he necessarily been a guy that's crept up that far. I'm not even sure that we've seen him ranked higher than the QB 15 at any point, and especially not right now. But I know that the mood for some people has soured, especially after this past week when a double whammy hit. Double whammy number one was you lose to Carolina by 30 and score nothing. And then double whammy number two is Kirk Cousins. They opened his coffin and pulled him out, and then they put him on the field late in the fourth quarter with about 11 minutes left. And I know that the story is that the game was out of hand and they were pulling starters, but Alexander, what is your take after watching it all go down?
It's tough because there's a lot of high expectations with Penix, especially, superseding Kirk Cousins, who has that massive contract and it overall. A little disappointed especially in an opponent like Carolina, who was not expected to have a very good defense, to have such a poor outing against them with the weapons that he has, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan. I think it's just really difficult to see that, but I'm still a firm believer that we need more games to make a proper evaluation of him. He's played 6 games throughout his career so far. He's 12th in QBR. He's still got elite weapons, 11th in pass attempts. I still think he's got a shot. 12th in deep ball attempts. I think he's still got a shot to put up a lot of points. I just think that this was just not a very good sign, and it's one big hiccup in Penix to kind of does scare you a little bit just because of how poor the outing was. But I think that he's got the weapons. He's got all these different pieces here and his metrics are really not terrible, especially in terms of pass attempts, that he's still going to score points. You just would like to see him be more efficient and not make these very silly mistakes, because he is an older prospect. So I need a little bit more time, but it was not a great showing for him.
Well, it's interesting because I think that is the greatest issue with Michael Penix is what's happening with the deep ball right now. I mean, looking at PFF on the regular season, Michael Penix's rate of deep ball pass attempts is 5.1%, which ranks him number 32 in the NFL, the lowest rate of deep ball pass attempts. And that was literally the bread and butter coming out of college, was what he could do downfield. And it's truly kind of being neutered out of him. But it's interesting because here's the thing about him. First round draft capital, obviously super high pick, 8th pick in the draft that year. But mystery box ever since then, right? We didn't really see him originally. Here we are seeing him at the end of last season, beginning of this season. The biggest issue for me is that I think it's been proven that quarterbacks without rushing mobility are immediately added to a class of quarterbacks that is very, very different. Unless you're honestly somebody like Patrick Mahomes, who for a while was a top 4, 5, 2, 3, number 1 quarterback in the league until he stopped throwing 35 touchdowns a year. So if you're not throwing 35 touchdowns a year and you're contributing 0 as a rusher, which we've seen from Penix dating all the way back to college. I think I have his college stats pulled up. Let's see if I can do this. Don't fail me now. All right. You know what? I don't know. Maybe I can't. Point being, Alexander, that Michael Penix as a 0 as a rusher, underperforming as a passer. And I was looking at it. Penix, after 6 NFL starts, has a TD rate of 1.96 and an interception rate of 2.45% and a career completion percentage of 58.3. None of these numbers are good. None of them so far. And you said it right. Look at the weapons that he has. But even dating back to 2024, his on-target passing rating is 67%, which would have ranked him QB 35, only behind Anthony Richardson. Right? And so it's very interesting. Even going to Player Profiler, he has an 80.6 pass protection rate, which is QB 22. But it's interesting. This is what's deceiving. If you move that 3 points, he's a top 15 in pass protection, but he's number 11, or he's QB 7, a bottom 7 QB in pressure per drop back at 11%. So none of this really makes sense to me. All I know is he's underperforming from an efficiency standpoint, and he's not pushing the ball downfield, and that probably has a lot to do with the play calling in Atlanta.
Yeah, I think that, going into this, even when drafting Bijan in the first round the year before, and even before that, they were a very heavy run scheme on that team. I think that the whole team is built around Bijan, and I think it takes away from the deep ball pass attempts. But he hasn't been accurate even when he's attempting. So I think that it's not a good look. The situation doesn't give him the amount of attempts to maybe throw the ball and utilize these weapons a little bit more. I just, it is concerning, but give him a few more games and see if this sits and this is who he really is, or if this was just sort of getting used to being in the NFL. I think the biggest concern also was that, again, he's also an older prospect, right? So, and these teams also, he's going to be 26 by the end of this season. And these teams give these quarterbacks such a short leash because they need production as soon as possible. We've seen other, first round QBs go through this kind of treatment. You mentioned Anthony Richardson. I think the pressure is going to start building after a game like this for Penix. So hopefully he can bounce back and deliver and show us that who he was as a college prospect. That was just this elite deep ball passer. But as you said, not rushing. He doesn't really have that much upside if he's not going to get better at passing the ball.
Yeah. And, it's just one of those cases where people are down on him. He doesn't have the benefit of CJ Stroud, who's not good this year, but had a great rookie year. And he doesn't have the benefit of being Bo Nix, who was great as a rookie and has had, a game or two here that people don't love. Like, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt if you didn't come out stellar right out of the gate. And that's something that we find in Dynasty all the time. And, I know that there seems to be some level of conversation amongst the crappiest of the beat writers that are saying, hey, it's maybe time to consider, a quarterback change and do what they did to Bryce Young and like sit him for a couple games and then bring him back out. But I feel like that's also how you fracture a quarterback. But let's look at a couple of these trades that are on here that we pulled up. Here's the first one, and I'm not going to forget about you podcast-only listeners. Nico Collins and Michael Penix for Ladd McConkey, J.J. McCarthy, and Carson Wentz. This is a start 10, Superflex, tight end premium, 12-team, full PPR, but 4-point per passing touchdown.
Yeah. I still think, even though it's been, 4-point passing touchdowns kind of makes it tough because I like the 6-point passing touchdowns, especially if they're a heavy passer, but obviously Penix has not been throwing the deep ball very much. The attempts are still relatively there, but the average depth of target's not great. I still side with the Nico and Michael Penix just because Nico Collins is a stud and Ladd's got some competition apparently with Quinton Johnston and the resurgence of Keenan Allen. I don't know if Keenan Allen ever left. I just think Keenan Allen is just apparently just an ageless wonder. I still got to side with the Nico and Michael Penix and see more games up to this point before I go and move off of, especially if I'm giving up Nico Collins. I'm siding with the Nico Collins and Michael Penix side.
I think that here's the thing. Even Nico was a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. And now here we are with him in this position. 4-point per passing touchdown, rusher for rusher. It's not like McCarthy is infinitely better than Penix is in terms of like what he did as a rusher in college. It doesn't really move the needle for me. I like McConkey, but you're right. Like, and I don't want to dive too much into McConkey only because he's on the show sheet, but I will say yes. Like, you look at how the deployment of targets have gone this year. You look at snap shares, you look at the opportunities, you look at what he's done in some of these games, and it does seem like there's a fairly, for lack of better terms, even distribution of opportunity going on. Yeah, it's a little heavier, Quinton Johnston's way currently. Keenan Allen exactly is really in the way, and Nico Collins has just nothing in his way and won't have anything in his way for a while. And I think we were looking at this earlier. He's 26 and a half. And Michael Penix, we don't We don't know enough about him. The last time we saw J.J. McCarthy, it was a nightmare. That's what we do know. Now, I'm not saying Penix has necessarily been a world beater, but we can excuse away some of his just like we can McCarthy. Too early to tell on both, but I think for now, Nico's really the tipping point if it's QB for QB, because Penix has a lot of great weapons as well. And my assumption is that he does turn it around despite the fact that he's ultra inefficient presently during the season. Let's try this next one. Penix for a first and a second, a 27 first and a 26 second. This is Superflex, tight end premium, 12 teams, start 10, 6-point passing touchdown, full point PPR. The question is, in the 27 class, which now we're looking 2 years ahead, so we're really, in a sense, devaluing. Well, are we though? Because I feel like people are also saying like, no, that 27 class is really good, and they're leveraging that. So the question is, it probably gets a bump because it's the 27 class in people's eyes, but also, where does that need to fall for you? And also, how in the world can you even predict that when a few trades for the owner of that pick can make them a much better team? You know, if let's say right now it's a mid-round pick, all it takes is a couple draft picks from a year earlier to hit, right? Or, you know, anything like that, and suddenly these guys kind of rise in value. So where does that first need to be for you to do this if you still believe in Penix?
Definitely got to be a early to mid. If it's a late, obviously I'm not, but we can't predict like where that team could be. Like you said, like one draft class could change the owner of that pick, the original owner of that pick, to skyrocket it to, dump it down to a late first, and you're not even going to get a chance at a guy like who has struggled a little bit. But like if Arch Manning comes back to the generational talent that he has been coined as, and he comes out in the 2027 class, there's a shot that you could get him, but that shot is very slim if you don't know where that pick's going to go. So long story short, it's got to be, to me at least, a mid first round pick for a shot, because then you could leverage other picks and that spot to kind of move up if you have a chance. But I put in the trade calculator and we said it's pretty even. We're actually on the pick side, just by a few, 1,200 points. So I definitely side on the Penix side. Oh, yeah. Sorry, the pick side, sorry.
It's tough for me because as much as I love the idea of loading up on future picks and loading up on 27 picks because everybody's in love with them, it's going to take a lot for me to move off of a quarterback with this level of draft capital and this level of opportunity. It would have to be a very early pick in most senses for you to move off of them anyways. And I just feel like for me, not knowing what that pick's going to be and knowing that it could increase in value, if Michael Penix turns into a quarterback that's throwing 30-plus touchdowns a year, how am I going to be able to look back on this trade and go, well, I got a mid-round guy. I have no idea who he's going to be, but I knew who Penix was coming out of college. He landed in a situation that I actually thought was primed. He's got the opportunity to start. And then the second-round pick is like, it would have to be decent because that could those could both end up being later.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's potentially possible. So for me, I'm still on the Penix side. I don't think I'd take the pick because the second is like, is it really moving the needle when you were talking about a package for a player like this? For me, it doesn't move the needle enough, despite the fact that it is, a first in 27. I couldn't do it because also what is the structure of your team? Are you able to give up a quarterback? And I just feel like trading a quarterback for one first-round pick is bananas. I don't know. I haven't been in many leagues where unless the guy is like starting to just phase out, like I don't know where you're getting a QB for just one first-round pick. So I think I'm on the Penix side, but I can see the argument for 27. If you're one of these teams that's just really pushing hard for a rebuild, even though Penix is essentially still a rookie, and you're concerned with what you're seeing now, and you just want to take that pick, maybe they know more than I do. Maybe it's early, or maybe it's presumed to be early, but we have literally how many games in between now and then? 15 plus 18. I mean, we got a lot of freaking games.
A lot of games.
So 15 or 17. So it's way too many games. let's so the next player that somebody you really wanted to put on the show sheet and somebody that you talked a lot about in the offseason this year, and we didn't do any content. Had we done content, people certainly would have heard how like emphatic you were about this player. But Quinshon Judkins is the next player that we wanted to bring up. And I know that for you, you were really in love with him. A league or two that we're in together and some that I'm in, he was a player that I targeted because he really fell a little bit. And I think to the point that you made off air, where he landed may have been part of that reason. Had he landed in some other circumstances, he probably gains more value than he had. And then, of course, the criminal charges that were, attempted earlier in the offseason, everything falls off the map, and here we are with him starting and performing pretty well last week.
Yeah, I think when you look at Judkins, just as a prospect, his profile is just ridiculous. Like 6 foot 220, elite size speed, crazy production at both Ole Miss and Ohio State. Profiles as a 3-down back, ridiculous yards after contact per attempt, and the highest correlation again to these guys. And he has like pass catching prowess. I know he doesn't really truly profile as, he's more of like one of those like crazy first and second down grinders that can break off these crazy runs and force a lot of missed tackles and break off tackles. Quinshon Judkins is just, to me, was a no-brainer to like in this class. I thought Genty, Hampton, Judkins. I didn't even think about, I know Caleb Johnson was a hot topic as well, but Judkins had the crazy production coupled with the draft capital in Cleveland. It was a high second-round pick, and he also went to a scheme that wants to run the ball, right? This is a team that just was years removed from featuring Nick Chubb, who had a lot of success irregardless of their quarterback situation and their offensive situation. And this team can only get better over time. And I think that's what had pushed him back within drafts because of the landing spot. Similar to like someone like Mbuka, who had, there's Chris Godwin, there's Mike Evans. Well, Judkins is on the Browns, so what are they going to do? But on the Browns team that wants to run the ball significantly, you throw in the legal issue, obviously do not support whatever he did, or, don't like him as a person if that's what he actually did or whatever. But as a prospect, he had an elite profile and went to actually a really good situation where he could, thrive as their, feature offensive weapon there in Cleveland. To me, it was just like a no-brainer.
I mean, heir apparent to Nick Chubb. And then, last week, 18 carries, only Dylan Sampson gets 1. And this was on, a 54% snap share or something like that? I mean, he didn't have, 55.4%. So it's, he did exactly what you would expect a player with this quality of rushing capability to do. And at this point in time, let's, in our rankings aren't currently adjusted. We'd have to look offline at this, but Quinshon Judkins is certainly going to climb. I know he was already pretty high in our rankings, and I'm sure after we do the update this week, he'll remain in that position. Let's look at a couple of the Quinshon Judkins trades that we have pulled up. I know we had at least one of them pulled up in here. Oh, this was... yeah, there. Okay, so now while I want to believe that this is possibly not legitimate for somebody that's a Drake London owner, there was a trade on the 24th, a straight-up deal. Quinshon Judkins, Drake London, basically 2 QB, 12-team, full-point PPR, half-point tight end premium, start 10. I mean, is it that crazy at this point in time? I mean, is it that crazy? Judkins
it's not
even 22 years old.
He's not even 22 years old. You got 24-year-old receiver Drake London, who's had some good seasons, but now we've listed out the reasons why Michael Penix has struggled. And, especially with the deep target rate for Penix, it is closer than I think preseason would have suggested. Like if you did this trade preseason, obviously with the legal issues, but even before that, after getting drafted by the Browns, Drake London had such high hopes for this season, and he still could meet that. We referenced that Michael Penix could bounce back, but I mean, I think this at this point in time is definitely probably a more dead even trade, and I think that like even I put it on the calculator.
Let's put it up right
still,
now.
yeah, side's definitely on the London side, but I would say probably after the updates, I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably way closer than people would admit. But yeah, Judkins is just such an elite player. I think he leads all running backs in yards after contact, which is like 5.4 or 5.14, I believe, which is just ridiculous. And does he lead all rookies in rushing yards, I believe, as well? So, and this is off of limited practices and games.
I mean, he's
so
played 2 games right now, so
2 games. Yeah, 2 games, and the other guys some of these guys have played all 3 weeks. So it's too early to say on that front, but the yards after contact, all the stuff that we thought would translate over, has translated over, and he's played for big time programs. And yeah, there you go, 155 rushing yards on the season after week 3. Next up, was it Ashton Genty, top 10 overall pick, 144.
yeah.
So
Number 2 in the league right now. Basically, RJ Harvey's the only other one that kind of qualifies in yards created after contact, 5.14. So,
yeah,
pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah. So in the trade calculator, obviously, ours is still siding with the London side by a fair amount. Now, as you noted, it will be interesting to see what happens when the update pushes this weekend. I have always struggled to trade a player that is considered sort of a premier wide receiver for any running back. It's just always been difficult when I feel like you could have bought a Dobbins. You could have bought, one of these older players that's still performing and not have to cop up or, give up one of these essentially like borderline elite assets. Now, I know Drake London was considered an elite asset coming into this year. And so far this season, the most points he's had in a game is 13.5 fantasy points per game, which, by the way, he did on 15 targets. So that's a wild stat, by the way. But since then, 5.9 and 10.5 fantasy points per game. A lot of this has to do with the structure of this offense, the struggles of Michael Penix, what we're seeing there. And who knows? I mean, this has been really kind of an ugly year for a lot of wide receivers, to be honest with you. We were talking about this earlier. Watch what happens in Minnesota. Watch what happens in Cincinnati. Like, who knows? CD's hurt now. Like, I don't know. I think there's been quite a few players that have underperformed through the first couple weeks. A.J. Brown was like MIA for 2 weeks? So I think that this bug has sort of gone around. With Drake London, I'm betting on the talent. I'm betting on the upside. I tend to struggle pretty hard giving up a guy like London for him, but I wouldn't fault a team that had a lot of depth if they were getting something back. But I would be willing to bet that the calculator will still favor London into next week by a decent amount, but I'm assuming that Judkins is going to close this gap.
Yeah, agreed. I think if I had a choice right now, Drake London, you want those target hog wide receivers. Those are what win you leagues. You can, Judkins has a crazy great profile, but Dylan Sampson, like you said, is on the team and he profiles as a receiving back. So we need Judkins to get more targets to maybe move the needle here and maybe thrust him above London at that point. But I definitely would side with the London side, but Judkins is one of my favorite prospects in this entire class.
Yeah, I would just love to see that pass catching. Just come on. Let's turn
just
that
a little
thing
bit.
on. Just a little bit. Just like 4 targets a game. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah, right.
I think that was the extent of, for whatever reason, did we have Judkins deals in the trade calculator? Had people made some trades?
I think I did, but we've gone through and some of them.
What was the one that really pissed me off? What was the deal that just like really chapped my I want to know what one it was.
I gotta look. Hold on. Sorry.
So while he does that, if you haven't been to the website yet, dynastyrankings.com/tools, that'll get you to the trade calculator. I'm sure eventually I'm going to change that link because every time I think about it, I'm like, Nate, change the damn link. It'll it'll probably get changed. But yeah, you guys check out the website. Go try these tools out. Check out the rankings after they get updated. Try out the trade calculator. Give us some feedback. It's really new. It's literally was over-engineered is what I've said about it many, many times. And I think you guys are going to really like how accurate and true it does sort of fall relative to what's on the market. So dynastyrankings.com/tools. Try it out. Check out the rankings. Go to the Discord. Flame us. Tell us how bad it is. Tell us how great it is. Just be honest. I mean, come on. It's 2025 with social media the way it is. Can we not just be honest about things? I mean, honestly, I don't need you to lie to me. Let's just do this. Have you gotten it yet?
Yes, I got it. I
Okay.
can't remember if this was the one. It was Tyreek and a 2027 first for Mbuka and Judkins. That might
Was
be
that it?
Gosh.
That's probably it. I don't even know. I think we've derailed what we were working on here just by bringing this up in the first place. Judkins is obviously a player that we love. The third player that I brought up, and this is just an interesting name to bring up in my opinion because of the way the situation has changed, and it just depends on what sort of team you are and kind of how you're building. A player that I've liked, a player that really climbed preseason this year was T. Higgins. And T. Higgins is one of these guys, and for some people, they're probably like, his quarterback's dead. Right. That's kind of the reason that I'm bringing up T. Higgins. Because with Jake Browning and not having Joe Burrow, there's going to be a lot more dip performances. And there are some teams out there that were banking on T. Higgins to sort of be what gets them to the title, the way that we saw him perform in sort of limited fashion last year. And with Jake Browning on the field, I've got a stat here that I put together. This is, because T's been hurt and Browning's been on and off, this is every performance that they've had together. Now, touchdown dependency has sort of shown its face a couple of times, but for the most part, you zap that game where you had 140 yards, this is what you're looking at. 2 games with 8 targets, the rest of the games 3, 4, 5, and 2, 1 catch, 3 catches, 2 catches. Who knows what the future looks like? We saw what happened to Jamar. I just think as a whole, there's going to be a dip here, and if you're somebody that likes T. Higgins, he's not even 27 years old yet, and you're looking to pry him off a roster, I think this is going to be sort of a moment in time where we're going to see another one of those dips. And coming up next week, they are playing Denver. Denver's a top 8 against the pass defense right now, only allowing 22.4 total points to wide receivers. So who knows? You may see somebody panic selling on T. Higgins thinking, damn, I'm not going to get any performance out of him. He's going to have time next year. And I guess the other point is I envision T gaining value next year because the likelihood that we see Burrow pre-playoffs, and I don't think we're going to see him then, is probably not very high. So I don't think we see him back this year. That's the reports, 3 months out. So for me, T. Higgins is a guy that I'm interested in just because I know what his upside is. I know he's going to be capped this year, and I feel like that makes him a buy low in the sense that somebody's going to get tired of him, and I'm quite certain that he underperforms this week as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he probably underperforms again. Top eight defense, like you said, with the Broncos. When he's with Burrow, obviously, and he's targeted heavily, he performs, and you know what you're getting with T. Higgins. It's not like he's these other prospects that are still pretty young and don't have enough games played. We've seen so many games with T. Higgins. We know what T. Higgins can be. He could be potentially as a 1 because he's a free agent, right? He's on the franchise tag, that he can go and be a number 1 on another team and have a shot. I think that's probably what you're banking on and buying into when you're buying the buy low on T. And I'd be curious to see what some of the trades people go throughout the rest of the season with him, because I think he's going to be a popular name as a throw into some of these trades to get either move off of him or help move them up to get a more highly valuable player.
I'm just a big fan of T. And didn't T sign an extension?
Did he sign an extension?
I think
he was on franchise.
Let me look. Let me pull this up.
I can't remember. I thought he was on franchise tag, but
It looks like he's a free agent in 29 now.
Okay, so he did sign an extension. That's my bad. Okay.
So, but either way, I just feel like the dip is coming, and if you're interested, it just depends on the roster construction again. Like, if you're a rebuilder, are you afraid of T. Higgins at 27? Is it just based on cost? Like, what would keep you from going after T?
If I'm a rebuilder, I'd buy someone like T because he's still like 26, 27 years old, and he's a high-end wide receiver too when Burrow's healthy. And you could definitely see Burrow being back to form. I don't think the injury that he suffered is going to, nuke his career. Like everyone says he's on the Andrew Luck thing or whatever. I mean, the injuries are similar, or not the injuries, the amount of injuries in offensive line system. But I think Joe Burrow will be back in full force in 2026. So absolutely, that gives you an opportunity to contend. Maybe you hit on some on your draft picks or some of your other players bounce back and you go and buy them. So I'd be curious what you can get, what some of the trades will be, especially near the end of the season, because people are going to get tired of this Jake Browning situation because some of these games have been pretty rough. I know Jake Browning, we both really kind of liked him in some of the games that he's played. He's performed really well, especially when he came in for Burrow in 23 and had a great profile coming out of Washington. Obviously he's just one of those backups that they're, you're going to get some boom weeks and bust weeks. And typically these backup quarterbacks will just heavily target the number one and leave some of these guys like in behind. And you showed the evidence of it. So,
yeah, I mean, is somebody going after Jameis Winston? Like, are they going to hang around and wait? I mean, you're only 3 weeks in. Are you just throwing in the towel right now? It's like you're just going to let it sink with Browning?
No. I mean, no. I just think that, that game was rough as well. But I think that there's definitely, that was an extremely rough game. I think some of these were not entirely his fault. The game before that, he also threw 3 picks as well. So, he's had 2 rough games to start off the 2025 season. So I think, he could easily bounce back, just like we've talked about with some of these other players, because we've seen evidence of him performing at a high level.
What about New York giving up Russ, man? Is Russ coming over to Cincinnati? Is that possible? I guess the other thing, too, about T is the 9 targets last season, the pace he was on, man, that was everything for me. And you felt like you were going to unlock it this year, but again, hasn't come to fruition just yet. So here's another one. There's a player that came up on one of the first episodes, or maybe it was last week when I talked about the Reddit post, who a lot of people just not a fan of, didn't perform necessarily supremely well in his previous stop. And here he is sort of rebuilt on an undefeated roster, and that's Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has been playing out of his mind, and you and I were talking about a trade package that came up on Reddit where somebody was basically like completely dismissing Daniel Jones as if there was just no value to be had there, but very clearly there's value to be had there, right?
Oh yeah, I think that they had an issue with the fact that Daniel Jones in our system was ranked to the equivalent of Javonte Williams, might have been Scary Terry at that point. So the question is to revisit that in 2025 Superflex. Who would you rather have right now, Daniel Jones or Scary Terry?
That's the thing. Like, yeah, a quarterback all day. And how many quarterbacks have we seen go to a new team, rebranded over the last few years, and find their resurgence? Like, it's been so many teams, and we saw enough glimmers of production from Daniel Jones along the way to go, okay, there is some competent quarterback play behind this player, but playing for such like inept offenses for so many years. But this year, averaging 22.7 fantasy points per game, number 4 at the position. His completion percentage is 5 points higher at 71.6% than it was at any point in his career, while also his yards per attempt are like 3 full yards higher at 9.3. So you explain it to me, but he's been great so far.
Yeah, no, he's been so great. His QBR is also fifth at the position. And you mentioned yards per attempt. He's also just got a great supporting cast, great offensive line. Kind of researched Michael Pittman a little bit to the Michael Pittman that we know. He's got an elite running game with Jonathan Taylor. His supporting cast is unbelievable, and I think that it's just change of scenery has really unlocked what some of the talent that we saw glimmer a little bit in New York. And he's got the rushing ability. He's going to be used in the red zone to get those rushing touchdowns that helps differentiate him from some of these guys that get put in another tier because they have no rushing prowess whatsoever. Daniel Jones unlocked that and had always had that rushing ability even when he was in New York. He was a popular super flex position. You would throw up in your lineup because you knew that you were going to get some rushing yards and a rushing touchdown occasionally.
I had a couple notes on Daniel Jones that came up, and one of them, yes, exactly. So Daniel Jones is averaging over 7 carries per game over the last 4 years, which has been worth about 3 extra fantasy points per game on just the yards alone. He already has 3 rushing touchdowns this season. He's currently QB4 in on-target passing percentage at 83.9%, while ranking QB4 in average yards per attempt at 9.97. Here's the wildest stat. So far in 2025, Daniel Jones has been over 9 yards per attempt in all 3 of his starts. In his previous 70 games played, Daniel Jones only had 5 games where he had over 9 yards per attempt by the end of the game, and never in consecutive weeks.
That's just insane.
It's a mind bender.
He also did this against Denver, which was widely considered one of the best pass defenses. They're top 10, like you said. They're widely considered potentially the best pass defense in the league with Pat Surtain and secondary Nick Bonito, all these other guys. And he threw for over 316 yards against them. So, yeah, he's really been truly unlocked, at least through 3 weeks of the season. But, yeah, I think I would gladly say that I value Daniel Jones.
How did we not have any Daniel Jones deals queued up?
We did have some, but I think they were just kind of crazy trades that we were like, I think people are just messing. People are just messing around on there. But.
Let's see here. Let me pull this up real quick. Let's just spitball a trade or two real quick. Daniel Jones deal. Man, and I really wish our adjustment had kicked in because I feel like this isn't going to do it justice. Oh. Sorry about that. I guess we are not going to do a Daniel Jones trade because it's got to be accurate. I feel like I don't want to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like I don't want to dive into this just yet because I know his points. Everything's going to change. So, point is, Daniel Jones presently, I would be interested to see where he climbs to because where is he in our current rankings? So let's just go to the rankings right now. I'm going to pull him up. Let's just do it. Screw it. This is for the kids. So, I think he's going to be down a ways. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Oh, he's below T-Law. So, preseason, he was QB 27. We had him neck and neck with Jackson Dart, Geno Smith. I mean, I'm curious, and I don't know how far we're going to end up letting him ride up the rankings, but at this point in time, a guy like Tua, I mean, are people concerned about Tua's position in Miami? Like, is there a belief that Daniel Jones has more longevity in Indianapolis than Tua has in Miami?
I mean, it's a fair question, right? I think that, they've invested, they got a contract extension with Tua, right? So, it's a question now at this point. I mean, we were pretty close with them, 25 and 27. But Tua's still got Waddle, but Tyreek could be on the outs. McDaniel could be on the outs. Daniel Jones is tied to, Shane Steichen now. If they continue the success, if they're even a wild card team or, they win a playoff game, gosh, I think Daniel Jones could potentially, he could skyrocket a lot of these guys on this list, quite frankly. I think he could enter way above like Sam Darnold territory by the end of the season if he continues at this rate. He could enter a crazy spot. But I think Tua's got the weapons right now, but there's signs that they could be moving stuff around, right? Daniel Jones is in a situation where it seems like they're going to continue to ascend, right? And I think if I had to choose right now, I probably would start to lean more on the Daniel Jones side just because of the resurgence.
I think the crazier part about it is that Daniel Jones is on a 1-year contract worth $14 million. Tua's got more longevity because he signed a $212 million contract last year. But Daniel Jones is on a 1-year. But who knows? Like, this is the perfect storm for a guy who's 28. Whether the Colts decide to extend him on a 3-year deal or something like that, or essentially it's almost the Sam Darnold thing. Like, okay, another team signs you to a 3-year deal somewhere else. I just think that if he continues to perform this well, and inevitably there will be some faltering along the way. When you function this well in an offense, I don't see how they let you leave. Like, you're not going to end up being paid like Joe Burrow. You're not going to get paid like one of these other big-time quarterbacks, but they do want to lock you into this offense, and he's making this offense is alive. I mean, it's more alive than it's been in a long, long time.
Agreed. To your point, the only one who would let them leave is Minnesota, right? Minnesota's the only team that would let go of a legit quarterback who took them to 14 wins, career resurgence, and then let him leave for free to Seattle, and seems to be doing pretty well in Seattle.
But it's that case where, again, you've got this guy behind him that you've got to let do his thing at some point, and you can't keep waiting. And I think the Anthony Richardson game, and by the way, good on the Colts for making the decision to go, you know what? Despite all the outside pressure, we're putting this guy, a la Trey Lance, we're putting this guy in. We're going to give this guy the shot, and they're 3-0, and he is playing the best football he's ever played in his whole career. And for fantasy purposes, he's number 4 at the position, and he's crushing it. And I can't wait till it's a conversation about Daniel Jones or Trevor Lawrence. Real excited to get there.
That will be buddy. That. I think that day's coming sooner than you think. So
I feel like it is coming. I feel like we're gonna get there. As unbelievable as that might sound, we are slowly but surely. It's gonna become borderline undeniable by like week 11. Now the contract extension would be the big difference maker, because I remember with Jared Goff, like, people didn't really want to buy into the fact that he was still playing really well, but when he got that contract extension, it's like, all right, all the pressure's off. He's a guarantee for some extended period of time. I'm, more interested in buying him, rostering him. I think for people, they feel like if for some reason Daniel Jones has 7 bad games in a row, they're just going to see you later, go on to the next thing, try somebody else out in the future,
Yeah, and again, I don't think, going back to your point with Anthony Richardson, I don't think they could give him another chance, but I don't think that. I think they've moved off of
just no way.
Anthony Richardson.
There's
It would take a lot for him to fall back down. Daniel Jones, what I'm saying, fall back down, and then them move to Anthony Richardson. I think Anthony Richardson is staying on the bench, just like Trey Lance stayed on the bench, and they just rode with the better player. So the inaccuracies with Anthony Richardson and such, I'm pretty excited for that conversation. I'm excited for the conversation of JJ McCarthy or Daniel Jones.
Ooh,
so
JJ McCarthy or Daniel Jones, spicy meatball. I'm sure we're going to get there. All right. So we had one more player that I think that I wanted to dive into on this episode. And we had an email that came in, Alexander, to the Dynasty Lab show. Am I missing something? I saw this trade on Reddit and the comments, and what does it say? And the comments felt belligerent. Thoughts? A big Nabers guy. I guess I don't really know. Are you a big Nabers guy? Who's not a big Nabers guy, right?
All right. Who isn't? Yeah.
So here it is. Rejected this trade, decided to keep Nabers. Is this the one? This has to be. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
Would you have done it? And so basically this trade is Malik Nabers, a 27 first and a 28 first for Jalen Hurts and Drake London. And this is super flex. It is best ball. And the comments, let me see if I can bring them up. Feel free to give your take on this trade. Let me see if I can get to these comments.
Yeah, initially looking at it, again, it comes back to, again, I love Malik Nabers. I think we're like arguing about, we're not arguing about whether or not Malik Nabers is a superstar talent. Same with like someone like, Jalen Hurts, and even Drake London has established. Situation is a little rough, right? Obviously, but it'll hopefully get better. I'm still sticking with the side with the QB that's going to get all these rushing touchdowns. The picks are like, yeah, they're picks, but I don't know where those picks are going to be. Those are 2-3 years from now. Like, I don't know if I'm getting 2 late first round picks and I'm, trying to fight over some guy that ends up, not even seeing the field for an entire year or doesn't end up being good. There's such a tier gap from like the first 3 picks down to the next, 3 or 4 after that. And then below that, the hit rate's just such lower than, and it also depends on classes, right? The 2028 first could be rough. The 2027 could not be as good as what everyone else says it is, right? So I just think that I'd still side with the Hurts and London side just because in Superflex, PPR, you referenced London. He didn't have a great game, but he had 15 targets. I mean, he's still getting targets. I think that I'm still siding with the Hurts and London side.
Well, I think what's really funny is this post came on the backbone, or I think it was just before week 3 kicked off, because what day was it? That timestamp on it obviously is from when I took the screenshot. Yeah. But what's really funny is everybody, and I'll go to the comments right now. Let me go to those. Let's see if we can go to some of these comments here. So let's scroll down. It's really interesting. Let's see here. Hold on. Perfect explanation. I think it's really close. Nabers plus 2 firsts, no way. Basically implying like there's no way I would do the deal. People not realizing that it's super flex. Not mentioning that it's best ball. People are saying wouldn't do this trade. Keeping Neighbor plus those first myself unless I need an upgrade at quarterback. So here's what's really funny. Super flex or not, I'm not dishing out Neighbors plus the picks. Here's what's really wild. On this day, or the following Sunday, which was like a day after this, Malik Nabers goes 2 for 13. So 7 targets, 2 catches, 13 yards. Jalen Hurts rushes for 40, rushes for a touchdown, and throws 3 touchdown passes. Couldn't be a more perfect storm. And Drake London, like Drake London at his peak, is he Malik Nabers? No, Malik Nabers is a very, very rare player, but he's 85-90% of Malik Nabers' production on any given week if he's really setting the bar high. He's not one of these players that's a wide receiver 2. He's a definite wide receiver 1. But Malik Nabers is just a special player, and I think we get hung up on that. And it's the idea that, so to get Jalen Hurts, I'm not even sure 2 firsts gets it done, number 1, right? And I don't even know where those firsts are. Nabers for Hurts, to me, that's a conversation. That is, let's pull up the trade calculator's not up to date. God damn.
I think that one doesn't really move
let it ride. We're going to let this one ride. Okay, finish your point.
I think that one could go through. I think we have Hurts very appropriately ranked, Neighbors appropriately ranked. Obviously, some situation changes, but I put it in, and it's still. All right, it says it's sides.
Yeah, they're probably where they should have been. So I mean, we've got Hurts slightly higher, and this isn't going to change much. I think Neighbors is going to go up, but I guess the point is that to me was already really close. Hurts is 27 years old, like elite as elite gets. Like how are we? So is it because the Neighbors? I mean, I know he has the targets, but is it because the game the week prior where he just went nuclear? That recency bias.
Recency bias, and then he goes and gets shut down by the Chiefs defense, and then I think this is just such an overreaction to one game, and there's guys who have put up like 40 games and then they give you duds the next week. Like Jalen Hurts is going to get rushing attempts in the red zone every single week. They have the tush push. It's the most overpowered play in football, and they're the best at it. And I think that like that's that's one of the reasons why he's got it. Oh, and also to mention he's got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, best offensive line in football, and Saquon Barkley behind him that he could throw to a screen to.
Well,
so
the other part of it is he's a higher probability for a touchdown on any given week than Malik Nabers is, number one. Number two,
Absolutely.
Let me walk back in time the last 5 years of fantasy points per game for Jalen Hurts, the guy that people are like just dismissing because Malik Nabers is in the deal. 21.6 this year, 21.3 last year, 21.9 the year before that, 25.6 the year before that, 21.4 the year before that. Do you see a theme here? Like, what are you talking about? It just, and if Drake London wasn't just sort of underwhelming this year because of his situation, I think we would in general be higher on him as well. So I appreciate the email from the Nabers guy. I just think it's funny that so many people would just immediately side with the idea that, oh, I'm not doing any deal where I'm doing Nabers for Jalen Hurts, as if Jalen Hurts isn't one of the best quarterbacks in the league in terms of fantasy football. I mean, really, like what are we worried about?
Is. I think it's more of like, I think sometimes people base their opinion on a fantasy trade based off of how they play the position versus how many points they're scoring per game in fantasy. Because like, obviously, like Jalen Hurts is not the best passer, right? Even though he has at this point 71% completion percentage, right? His yards per attempt may go low. He may not be these efficient passers, but what we want to win in fantasy football, especially Dynasty, we want to win games. And you want to win games when you have a Konami code rushing quarterback that is going to score you rushing touchdowns, especially easy ones that they're just running the tush push right into the end zone every single time. I don't know why we would not be wanting a guy like that who's consistently outscoring Nabers. Nabers' best season will be 17, 18. Hopefully, maybe he could hit the 20. That's in his range of outcomes, but that's at his best. The worst season, the year before? Let's see. Worst season for Hurts.
Oh,
worst season is 21. Yeah, his rookie year was 7.6, but he was barely playing.
Yeah.
When he actually started playing and hit his like prime, 21.4, like you said. That's 21 points per game. And that's the best you'll get for Nabers.
What is happening to Drake London? What is happening to Justin Jefferson? What is happening to Jamar Chase? What's going to happen with Jackson Dart?
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know a rookie quarterback. It's completely unknown. Like Jackson Dart is a relatively good prospect, right? And first round draft capital, but there's so many ups and downs. There's a lot of promise with JJ McCarthy, who's basically his rookie year now. And look at Justin Jefferson through 3 weeks, like you said. Yeah. Like there's going to be a lot of hiccups before they get this thing going, or he just ends up not being the guy, and Nabers is getting 5 targets a game for like 30 yards, 40 yards, and occasionally has one boom week. I just think that you're projecting and not really thinking about the situation, and I think it's stylistically, some people just don't like the fact that Jalen Hurts, is not this like elite passer like Burrow or Mahomes or Allen, where he's going to light up. I mean, he's threw for 300 passing yards.
But he's perpetually ranked above those guys for the very point I made earlier that he rushes the ball.
Yes, and that's what I'm trying to say is like I think that like people take that not into account. They say, oh, he's not a good quarterback because he's not throwing as much, but he's scoring you fantasy points. You're here to win fantasy points. You want to win championships, right? You want to just say you have Malik Nabers because he had that one boom week. Sure, you can believe in a guy and let your bias sit in, or you can win a championship.
I was just looking at this, and hold on, let me confirm it. Yeah, pretty much all of Malik Nabers' games that were over 20 points last year came on the backbone of like 14, 12 plus targets. And I'm not saying that that's the biggest factor. He's a damn good receiver. He might be considered the best receiver in the league at some point. I have no idea. I'm not going to rule out that upside. But, like, if you were volume dependent, if you were quality of target dependent, who knows? But now we're getting Jackson Dart. It'll just be interesting to see. I just think that the idea that we're being dismissive of Hurts in any way is crazy to me, because I do look at him, and we've talked about him at one point. We were like, he might be number one in our rankings. Like he certainly could have been there, and it'll be interesting to see how this year breaks out. All right. God, good Lord. Can we talk some Ladd McConkey? Like a little lad?
Let's do it.
Talk about little Ladd McConkey.
Little lad?
Yeah, he's a little lad.
Just a little lad.
I'll bring it back to the trade booth. So, Ladd McConkey, another player, when describing sort of the underperformance of players in 2025 at the wide receiver position, and I think that there's been historically a lot of them, and I'd like to pull this data to look at guys that were considered top 10 players the year prior and look at like how their first couple weeks started. So far in the year, 13.4 fantasy points, 9.8 and 8.1 in 3 consecutive games. And I think that there's a lot to be said. We tapped into this a little bit earlier in the show with just the way that this offense is being sort of spread out a little more, and the sudden and stable production by Quinshon Judkins, and then the return of Keenan Allen, the prodigal son that, as you mentioned, just won't go away. Are you concerned about Ladd? What are you foreseeing for Ladd?
I think I'd be more concerned about Ladd, at least for this season, especially with Keenan not being on the team. I think there's more likely, that Keenan probably either retires or age catches up to Keenan he's not looking like he should retire. It probably could be the next season. Age eventually catches up to everybody, I guess, unless you're Devontae Adams. But I'm a little concerned about it now because Keenan really does look really good, and he's taking away the red zone targets from Ladd. It feels like, watching some of the games, it looks like Ladd's getting most of the targets to lead up to the, and again, like you said, they're spreading him out, and he's not looking at being viewed as a red zone weapon. I do think that the positive thing is that at least the pass attempts for Justin Herbert has gone up significantly. So from 13 to 7, deep ball attempts have stayed roughly the same. Herbert looks like he's kind of hit a new level. He's first in passing yards, so it's there. But I think we're losing some of the target share that we thought that Ladd would just absorb, because we thought Quinshon Judkins dead, Keenan Allen dead. No, they're alive and well, and they're eating up a lot of that target share. And Quinshon Judkins, through 3 weeks, looks like he has sort of hit this new threshold that hopefully, I guess, depending on if you're a Quinshon Judkins or Ladd McConkey owner, could potentially hold over the season. 18.6 fantasy points per game through 3 weeks for Quinshon Judkins. Let me see what the target share is.
Probably over 21%, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's like 22.4%.
Yep.
I just have a hard time believing that Ladd is going to eat into that target share unless one of these guys, unless Quinshon Judkins regresses, which is possible, right? But we've seen year 3 breakouts by many, many players before, a la Nico Collins. So there's guys that this could hold, but it really depends on what the situation is with Keenan Allen. Is Keenan Allen just, he's an older player. He could potentially get injured, but I'd be concerned if they both stay healthy that Ladd's production stays at this level. He may have some boom weeks and such, but I don't think he's this, top 12 player that we, projected him to be at the start of the season.
I mean, Keenan Allen's averaging 9.3 targets per game right now at like 62 years old. So it's crazy that he came back in this fashion. But again, Quinshon Judkins was a mannequin previously. We thought Keenan Allen was gone. He was in Chicago. He comes back, and Quinshon Judkins looks, again, shockingly competent. 3 games in
Yeah.
a row. But I think part of the problem, too, is that Ladd was just wildly efficient last season. And it's something that doesn't probably get discussed enough, but wide receiver 5 in EPA, wide receiver 8 in quarterback rating when targeted, wide receiver 6 in yards per route run, and wide receiver 8 in yards per target. But this was also while being the wide receiver 27 in target share at 24.7%. It's not like he was making a killing in the target share department. He was very efficient as a receiver. But now after 3 weeks, Ladd is outside the top 40 in target share at 19.3%. And again, you look at the trends. Last week, the Chargers, Herbert, threw 47 times, and he had just 14.8% target share on 47 total pass attempts. So both Allen and Johnston over 21% respectively each. But McConkey, 2.56 yards per route run in 24. Now he's down to 1.85 in 25. I think the good news is, despite all that, the Chargers are still number 2 in the NFL in wide receiver target rate. So we know the opportunities exist. He's 23 years old, historical rookie season in some senses. This is Dynasty. It's only year 2. I don't think I'm going to be worried, but at the same time, with so many other wide receivers having down years, what we tend to do is look at the one that's on our rosters, and that's the one that we get worried about. Everybody has a wide receiver that looks like this right now that's under. We all have this problem, right? It's not exclusive to Ladd, but Ladd's situation different from Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and now Malik Nabers, like these top tier guys that are going to get a new quarterback for an extended period of time. It's like his situation is kind of solidified. He's sort of a little bit stuck right now. And also his slot rate is down 6% from last year because Keenan Allen has been playing so much extra slot. So that's been a bit of a factor as well. And that's where a lot of his production came from in the year prior. So to say that Keenan Allen is not a factor, very clearly he is. Quinshon Judkins taking a step forward, opening this offense up, is a big part of it. Does that mean that we won't see wide receiver 1 weeks from Ladd? No, of course not. We're definitely going to see a week where he goes for 135 and 11 catches. He's going to get hot in some game, but it's going to be tougher to start him week to week when you're concerned that you're going to get an 8-point week or a 7-point week, and you can't really predict the blow up. That would be the bigger concern. But we had a couple Ladd trades in here. Let's see if we can pop these up real quick. This was one that was made in the calculator by a user, and they had Ladd McConkey for T. Higgins and Zach Charbonnet. Now, again, this is sort of preseason value still, or week 1 value, if you will. So, I mean, what's your take here? Because prior to what you saw this year, If T. Higgins didn't lose Joe Burrow, does that change this trade in your eyes? Or are you still siding with the guy that's 23 plus years old and just saying, I'm going to stick with him?
I'm just going to stick with Ladd. His rookie year was so good that I would be – there'll always be – T. Higgins has an contract extension with Cincinnati. He's always going to be tied next to Jamar Chase. There's always going to be a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end potential wide receiver 1 weeks. But Ladd has an upside. If Keenan Allen is not, the same this next year or potentially gets hurt later in the season because of his age, there's a shot that Ladd could be a wide receiver 1 for the next 5 years, right? Like that's definitely within his range of outcomes. I just don't see that with T if I'm comparing 1-for-1, and with Charbonnet, still a murky backfield with him and Walker. Walker's at the end of his deal, but Walker seems to, obviously his contract year, so he's starting to perform at a higher level. Charbonnet got beat up a little bit. I don't know where Charbonnet is. Is Charbonnet still on the team and they re-signed Walker? I would rather bet on the guy that I know has a chance. We're trying to chase upside most of the time in Dynasty, unless you're trying to. This is really kind of a confusing one because if you're trying to win now, T is kind of hindered by, the situation with Burrow, and Ladd is sort of in a situation that, it's kind of murky, but that you're going to get a boom week because he's still going to be tied to Herbert. I think I'm still sticking with Ladd. Long story short, and I think this not resurgence, but this upgrade, this new level that Justin Herbert has hit, I want to be a part of.
I heard rumors, through beat writers and through other people that, Kenneth Walker was possibly on the trade block, and that's how the season opened. But with Charbonnet, possible injuries, the way that it was already murky with this, the resurgence of Kenneth Walker's performances. With Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker could get extended in this offense for a 2-year deal, right? And then suddenly Charbonnet, you bought him because you're like, oh, I've got the future Seahawks running back, and he's not.
Yeah.
And again, T. Higgins, shadow of Jamar Chase, yes. And Ladd, there's a chance that Ladd could be Keenan Allen, right? Like there's one day maybe he'll grow up to be Keenan Allen. So it's very clear to me that it's the Ladd side for me, only because we saw the historic year. We've seen the usage with the Chargers. You just hope that like eventually Keenan goes away, because he kind of did this to like Rome a little bit last year, being too involved.
He did.
And now he's kind of doing it to Ladd. Well, he's doing it to Ladd McConkey. And it's like, can you just kind of get the hell out of the picture so that these guys can do their thing? But in the NFL, it's some, truth being told, like the players that are performing play. And if you're a 30-plus-year-old wide receiver and you're playing well, the coaches are like, look, you're the starter. You're the guy we're going to. And he's been getting every opportunity, and he continues to play well. The end of his career will come down to an injury. I believe that. Not like a significant one, but the way his career started is probably how it will end, with nagging injuries, right? Like things that are going to keep him out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Suddenly he comes back, his performance is diminished. Ladd starts performing again, becomes the focal point of the offense again, and suddenly Keenan is now the backup role in a sense, like lesser opportunity. And then going into 26, maybe he's not there at all. Who knows? But yeah, I'm with you on this. I'm surely on the McConkey side. What is this one going to be? This one, I'm killing this one for a minute. Don't even want to go there. Here's another McConkey deal. Justin Fields and Ladd McConkey for an early 27 first, an early 28 second, and Caleb Johnson. Now, I don't know about you, but I love waiting 3 years to use my draft picks.
Right.
That should be illegal. No. Like,
oh my gosh. Yeah. I think it's just really tough. You're really just rolling the dice, and it's like very low odds. You're assuming that pick holds, unless this team is just like atrocious, right? And you have like some sort of guarantee, which you don't, that it could be an early first, and you get, if Arch Manning or one of these quarterbacks that's coming out in the 27 class is actually, as good as what they say they are, it's just a gamble. I'm sticking with Fields and McConkey because I know what I'm getting. Fields still looks great. He's got tied to Garrett Wilson. He's got the contract. Ladd, like we just talked about, all the things we love about him. The picks just don't move it for me. And Caleb Johnson Johnson's in the doghouse right now. I don't know when Caleb Johnson's going to see the field, and Jalen Warren's got a contract extension, so he's going to be there for a bit. So, I'm sticking with the Fields and McConkey side. I don't know. I can't see anyone moving over here unless they just extremely love just stockpiling a bunch of picks.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it, because if Fields perform again, the upside of Fields is worth more than that package alone. I don't know what that early again, but when we say early first, we're saying picks 1, 2, 3, 4. We're essentially, because we have early, mid, late. So 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12 would be your late. So you're essentially a top 4 pick. Top 4 pick is great, but if Justin Fields is playing well, like you're not going to get a guy with this rushing upside. He's got the contract. We've talked about McConkey. So, yeah, and Caleb, we just don't know. I'm just not – I'm with you. I think it's pretty clear that for me it would be the Fields-McConkey side. The upside's just far too great in that deal. Now let me see if I can kill that. Get that off the screen. Couple production errors on my part. It's my bad. Couple of those. Clean those up in the future. Come back better. Alexander, we've gone for like an hour and 20 minutes. This is way more than I thought we were going to do. I came in here, I was like, look, we're going to do 45 minutes, 50 minutes. You took us way into the deep water, and we went talking further about Daniel Jones than I thought. So the update is going to come this week, end of this week, early weekend, something like that. So keep your eyes peeled. Go check that out. Use the trade calculator, please. We'd love to get more data points in addition to more people using it to give us feedback. Feel free to take a screenshot. Go to the description on this video or in the podcast. Join the Discord. If you're not a part of it, if you are already a part of it, feel free to take those screenshots and submit them into the new channel because, again, we'd love to see them so that it'll help us sharpen our tool. And, again, maybe it gets featured on the show if it's wackadoodle enough or if we get flamed bad enough. Could be one way or the other. Hope to not get flamed, but we'll still acknowledge it because it's deserved. Alexander, thank you. Great as always. And we will be back next week. And hopefully we get some performances out of the players that we all have on our Dynasty rosters that have just been crapping the bed for weeks and weeks and weeks. But then again, maybe we won't. See you next week.